So, we're back at it again. The Wire. Let's get into it.
Ain't it obvious? I just got the check for depositing. $750 for the sound wave to get it processed. Won't stop till that shit weighing down my pockets. My main thing's to my main thing. She a blossom. When she ease the pain with the brain, she a doctor. She open up anything thicker than the plot gets. Swear that shit is awesome. Sight for the optics. Young nigga on top. Nike's all I'm rocking, so that all they see is checks from where the head to where the socks fit. No logo on the bifocal, flicking old roach tips. Won't even show my face until all the shows book. Need the cash in advance, leave them all social. I'm the guy they chosen. Rise up like the rose and put them on a poster. All the way up in the sky where the stars posted. Sip it on that rose, I put it down on coasters. Stack francs from the waves till I own the ocean. More praises for the sayings, let it all soak in. They like, hey, that shit is flame, bitch, I know I rode it. Going tight.
Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Ebbie, and this is Ebbie's Retro Reviews. So, like I stated in my video earlier, if you hadn't caught it already, me and some of the Justice League are doing some retro reviews, and we have picked two shows to start, and I've already done the first episode of A Different World, and so this will be my retro review of The Wire. Now, The Wire was a HBO series that came on a long time ago, and it portrayed the Baltimore drug trade and the cops and things of that nature in Baltimore at the time. So we're going to get into it. I'm excited because this is one of my favorite shows. So this is my retro review for The Wire season 1, episode 1, The Target. So we start with a crime scene, and we have a detective. His name is McNulty, and he is talking to this kid about this child that's laying dead, murdered in the street. And he's asking him what happened. What happened? Why did he get shot? And he was like, what's his name? And he said his name, they called him Snot Boogie. And he was like, and they went into the whole story of how he got that name. That's always been his nickname. That's always been what they've called him. And that Snot Boogie was always famous for coming to the dice games and trying to, and when the dice game is in motion and everybody's busy and throwing the bones, he grabs the money and run. Normally they just catch him and beat him up. He's like, that man didn't have to shoot him. He was like, we know that's what he's going to try and do. And McNulty said, well, why did you even let him in the game? If he always tried to steal the money, why'd you let him in the game? And he was like, this is America. You got to. That logic seems a little flawed to me, but there's a lot that's flawed. And that's the beauty of it. So, theme song comes on. And let's talk about the theme song. The Devil in the Hole. You gotta keep the devil way down in the hole. One of the best theme songs. And not only is it, you know how good a song it is that they play, each season gets a different rendition of the same song. They're all fire. All fire, all the time. Like, it's absolutely everything. So we then go into Bunk and McNulty are coming into the courthouse. And McNulty is going into this courtroom where a trial is going on. Stringer Bell, who we'll get back to, is in the courtroom. Weebay, also get back into him, enters and sits down. The witness is on the stand. His last name is Gant. He identifies the defendant, D'Angelo Barksdale, as the shooter in this particular trial because it's a murder trial. So he has no problem. And then they call up the security guard, Miss Niecy something. I can't remember. Niecy Leaks, I think is something. Like, her name could have been Nene Leaks for all we do this. And she has clearly been bought off because she says that she identified D'Angelo Barksdale at first as the shooter, but she then saw the actual shooter a week later. And she says that she tried to call the detective twice and he never called her back. When she tried, they said, well, why didn't you call and tell them that you picked the wrong man? She's like, I did. I called. And she said, on this date and this date. And I called twice and he never called me back. Okay. So, we then go to Detective Kima Gregg. She is on the narcotics team. She's doing a stakeout. She has a witness in the back of her car. What it is his homeboy has been taking baby girl's car and riding another broad around. And so mama said, oh no, not on my gas, not on my time. So she set this nigga up for the okie doke and let the cops in know that he's chauffeuring around other bitches, picking up drugs and money and shit in her vehicle. And fuck you, nigga, this is what you get. So once they see them get the drop, Kima tells them, don't do the takedown until they get further in. That's where we meet officers Carver and Herc. They perform the takedown and find a gun in the car. Kima pulls up and she was like, and she looks around and she looks back in the car and she finds a second gun, which was very dangerous for Herc and Carver because they were acting like they Billy Badass once they found the shotgun, not knowing that there was also a handgun in the car that either could have been not found and when the girl got her car, there was a gun in her car, or one of the people in the car could have pulled that second gun and started to shoot out. So, court is back in session. We go back to the courthouse for this murder trial with D'Angelo. And they get a verdict. They find him not guilty. The judge, and then we see the judge, they find him not guilty of first and second degree murder. And he gets off and he walks scot-free. The judge then is sitting in his office and McNulty is in there and asked him, why is McNulty at the trial when it's not his case? McNulty goes into explaining how Barksdale and Sugar Bell are running the Terrace Street projects and have been over the year. They're the new power on the street and they have beat 3 other different murder cases. Now, they go back to the office. Kima is typing up the report for the takedown. And she's actually using a typewriter and she can't type worth a hell. So she keeps having to backspace and she can't even backspace. She has to use whiteout and then go back and retype over it. Herc and Carver are having an inane conversation and Kima saying this is going to take me forever. And they was like, well, it wouldn't take forever if if we had the computers up and set up. They're supposed to train us on those. And they was like, well, we've had the computers for over a year. And Keith was like, yeah, right, Herc. If you got the computers, you would be knee deep in porn before the day was over with. And so then again, Carver and Herc goes into this stupid conversation about whether piss or poop rolls downhill as Lieutenant Daniels has been called up to the major's office. Lieutenant Daniels is the lieutenant over the narcotics division. So Herc and Carver are having this crazy conversation, and Carver says something very, very profound. He said, "You can't even call it on a war. Call it a war on drugs." And Herc says, "Why?" He said, "Because wars end." Like that is so profound. Because to this day, there's still a war on drugs. Like it's never going to end. It's never ever going to end. McNulty and Bunk catch a case. Bunk is mad that McNulty is mad that Bunk answered the phone. Is what happened, because when you answer the phone, whoever answers the phone, that's your case. You're so sorry. So they're hoping that this man who is a found body. So they found the body in the house. He's like, I'm hoping he died of natural causes. We then go to Lieutenant Daniels. He's talking to Kima to find out who Barksdale is and if he is running the terrorist projects. They have no info on Barksdale, not even his date of birth. McNulty finally comes into the office. His lieutenant asks him where he's been all day, and he says drinking, whoring, and just being a ne'er-do-well all day. Major Rawls calls in McNulty to tell him, fuck you and fuck your life. He's mad that he talked to the judge because the judge then pulled into everyone into conversation about what's going on with this Barksdale. How come he's got 10 murders? He done beat 3 murder cases. He's running all these drugs. Nobody knows who he is. Nobody knows what's happening. I need to know what's happening because he beat a case in my courtroom. And so they pull in, and everyone has to have a report on Barksdale by 8 a.m. the next morning. So Rawls then tells McNulty, I want the report on all 10 murders by 8 o'clock in the morning, and I want it to be perfect. Because if you make me look like a fool, I'm going to fuck your life up. So D'Angelo has gotten out of jail, and Weebay is driving him around. They're having a conversation, and D'Angelo says how y'all did that, the thing to get the person to recant, and blah, 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 blah. So Weebay pulls the car over, and he says, what are the rules? He was like, we don't talk anywhere, not in a car, not on the phone, not in any place that's not ours. And he was like, but it's your car. He's like, what is the rule? So D'Angelo seems, for someone who's around here killing people, he still has a sense of naivete and youngness to him. Then Weebay takes D'Angelo to his uncle Avon Barksdale, who's the one who's running everything. And he asked him, how you even get in this situation? We own those towers. Why we got people everywhere. You could have finessed him out of that building. You didn't have to shoot that boy in front of all those witnesses and in front of the security booth. And he's giving him and Ahana telling a whole lot of excuses. He's acting real young. He's acting real young and stupid. His uncle tells him to getting him out costs money, and he's gonna have to work it off. He then kisses him on the head and tells him we family, and we all we got. So D'Angelo goes to the towers the next day early, and he sees Stringer Bell, and Stringer Bell says, from now on, you're in the pit in the low rises. You're being demoted, pretty much. Listen, you done fucked up by killing this boy. No, you too hot right now. You just beat a case. You go into the pit in the low rises. Run that, and then maybe you can get a shot at the towers again. And so D'Angelo is acting real, like I said, young. He tries to pull, does my uncle know? Duh. Who you think demoted you? Nigga, you. So he tells Weebay to take him to the low rises. So D'Angelo gets to the low rises, and he's introduced to his new crew. And it is Bodie, Poop, and Wallace. Wallace wants to know, why are you down in the low rises? Was he messing with the count? And he's like, nah, I killed a nigga. Clearly that's enough. Okay. So next we meet Bubbles and his friend Johnny, a little white boy. They're both dope fiends. They're trying to get dope using fake money. Now Bubbles is trying to explain that they have to be careful with the people they're trying to burn, because they're not no slack jaws who just be in and out. These are professionals. They run a professional thing. You have to be very careful. They'll kill you. So, Bubble gets served he successfully scams the people out of the dope with the funny money. D'Angelo sees the transaction and calls Wallace over. He schooled Wallace's on the operation, tells him that you can't serve the people right after you take their money, because if someone is taking pictures, then they got a picture of the entire transaction. You just take the money, send them around the corner, and someone will serve them over there. That he's setting these new rules in place with this new operation. They have to tighten up, and he asks for the count. Wallace tells him to count and give Dees the money. Dee is going to put the money in his pocket without looking at it. Bodie tells him, you need to count it. He said, down in the pits, you need to count to make sure it's right. D'Angelo goes to count the money, and he finds the fake money that Bubbles gave him and yells at Wallace and tells him if it happens again, he going to put him on the lookout on the corner. He going to be a lookout boy in the corner. And Bodie says, that's it? That's all you going to do? And D'Angelo's like, yeah, it ain't that. My nigga, calm down. Calm down. So Bubs and Johnny are getting high, and Bubs tell him don't go too fast. He said, Johnny, you still green, and I'm trying to get you brown. Now they both nodding off at this time because they high as Cooter Brown. And so Johnny says to Bubs, let me run the scam tomorrow. And that's how that scene ends. Okay, so next day, Lieutenant Daniels arrives. McNulty shows up at the FBI. We see that the FBI, the surveillance, the FBI says they're getting out of the drug war. Since the towers failed, they don't have the money or the manpower to continue to do all of this surveillance for all the drugs being ran in the country. So Wallace is dealing. Okay, so we then go back to the low rises. Wallace is dealing with a fiend trying to buy some dope, and he's trying to figure out. You can see him physically trying to do the math in his head about how much change this man should get back for his dope. He's buying so much dope, and he needs change. Like it's a whole transaction, and these children have dropped out of school, so their math skills aren't necessarily the greatest. Johnny then approaches him and says he just want to get his dope, and he gives the money puts the money in Wallace's hand. Wallace drops it and tells him, wait a minute. Johnny gets nervous and then tries and walks off. Bodie sees him and walks up and peeps the money isn't real. He yells at Poop to grab the white boy. They go chasing after him. Wallace goes to get D. They catch the white boy, and Bodie is ready to throw him off the expressway. So D shows up, and Johnny apologizes, and he's like, I was just trying to get some dope. He's like, only one of the $10 bills is real. He's like, that's all I have on me. And D'Angelo walks away, and they proceed to start to beat the white boy. They beat him up real bad. So we then go to the details meeting, because they now have a detail specifically designed for finding out who Avon Barksdale is and investigating him. So Lieutenant Daniels is handing out assignments for the task force, and McNulty is really rolling his eyes about what's happening. Lieutenant Daniels says that we're going to do some quick street level buys, and then we're going to arrest some of the street level people and get them to flip on the higher level people. And McNulty says that's not going to work. They're too smart for that. And he was like, what we need to do is do surveillance, actual investigations, we need to get them, the higher level people, work our way up until we get to the higher level people. And okay. Lieutenant Daniels says, well, is that what you told the judge? And McNulty says, look, I'm sorry, but if we're going to do this, we need to do it right or not at all. And they tend to get in a back and forth argument. The state's attorney said, listen, if y'all was going to have all this argument, y'all should have did all of this before y'all called me in here. And Lieutenant Daniels said, there's no argument. We're going to do just what I said. We're going to do some buying and rips on the street, and that's what we're going to do. Then McNulty says, well, what info do we have on Barksdale? Do we have a date of birth? Do we have a picture? We don't have anything but his name. So Lieutenant Daniels is still like, that's fine, but we still going to do what I said. So Bunk and McNulty are talking, and and then McNulty asks Bunk about Lieutenant Daniels. He's like, what do you know about him? And he's like, is he a snake? And he's like, no, he's not a snake, but he is a company man. He's young, black, he has a law degree. He is in line to be the next major as soon as a new district opens up. So watch your ass, because he's got some clout. So we are then back at Avon's strip club. D'Angelo is talking to Stringer Bell. He's complaining about how bad them boys beat up Johnny, and Stringer tells him it's a principle to this thing. You can't show any weakness. Now, a stripper then walks up on D'Angelo and he says he isn't interested. He's got a lot on his mind. He's thinking he's really too soft for this life, but we'll visit that later. So Kima gets home and immediately starts working on her paper, which is due the next day. She and her wife have a conversation, and she gets a page, and she calls the page back. We then go to Bunk and McNulty. They're drunk off their asses, sitting on the car, having a conversation about how Bunk, when he was a rookie, got a call to come back to his house because his wife saw a mouse in the closet, and so he shot the mouse with his service revolver. And he's like, well, what did you shot up? And McNulty was like, you shot a mouse with your service revolver? He said, you damn right I did. He's like, well, what did you do with the carcass? He said, I cleaned it up. He said, I was going to leave that body out there to let the other mouse know what was up. I don't think the mice would have cared. They probably would have just ate him. Okay. McNulty says he's going to do the case right and how it should be done. And he is resolved in not just doing this piss ant, low-level street stuff. He wants to do this case correctly. Bubbles is at the hospital. Johnny is in ICU. He's beat up real bad. It was Bubbles who paged Kima, and Kima came to the hospital. He asked her, is she still working on the drugs? Because he's got something for her. Bunk catches a case of a found body, and we come to find out, we go to the crime scene, and it's actually the witness who pointed out D'Angelo on the stand. D'Angelo is in the crowd, sees it, and he walks off shocked. Like, he is just messed up because I guess he wasn't expecting that. But yeah, they had killed a witness and left his body in the middle of the street in the projects as a warning to keep your motherfucking mouth shut. That just is what it is. This show was groundbreaking in its time. Hell, it's groundbreaking right now. It's just going to get more and more complex, and like, I can't wait. This is almost one of my favorite shows. So please, this is my review for The Wire season 1, episode 1, The Target. Let's get down in the comments. Let's talk about this episode. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.